Selling is the air in the body. Cash flow is the bloodline. It's important for you to evaluate your ability to sell. You have to enjoy it. You have to feel it. You have to know it. You have to want to do it. No product sells itself. No matter how good your product is, it will not sell itself. So your skill has to evaluate, am I ready to sell? Do I enjoy selling? Do I like to get in a car, drive 200 miles, get out, do a sales presentation, drive another 50 miles, do another sales presentation, or fly, or emails, whatever it is? Do you enjoy selling? Do you enjoy getting out with people? Again, cash flows the bloodline. The sales keeps your business healthy. Right? It's the air. It's the oxygen. Do you have the ability to sell or don't you? You really need to sit down and not only do you have the ability, but you enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, it'll come across as you're not happy to be here. You're not excited about your product. You know, if you're going to come out and be an entrepreneur and nobody knows who your company is, and you come in and you're kind of down and you don't want to do it, it's going to get recognized by the buyer. The buyer says, "Hey, listen, I don't have time for you." You know, he'll start working his mouse and looking at something else, and you've lost your potential there. So if you don't have the ability to be a salesperson, you be honest with yourself, what are you going to do? You may say to yourself, well, I'll just hire a sales guy. Okay, let's think about that, right? So you just started a business and you got, let's call them an established salesperson, man or woman. They're established, they're successful, that's the person you want. They're going to come to you and say, okay, I got an idea, I just made a widget. Okay, well, you know, I'm used to a salary, I'm used to health insurance, I'm used to a expense account, I like to go out for nice dinners with the customers. Are you willing to fund all of that? We talked about startup costs and capital and all the unexpected surprises. Now you're going to take an outside person who may or may not have the passion you have because you started the company, and they're going to go out and try to sell your product because that's not your strength. So now you got to totally go back and look at your capital. Totally go back and look at how long it takes for someone to complete a sale, and we're going to send this person across country or whatever it is. So you really need to think about it. You could give out some non-controlling equity. That would attract a higher caliber salesperson, but you need a plan. You need to sit there and say, either I'm going to do the sales by myself, I'm going to hit the road, or I'm going to have somebody else do it. You have to really make that decision and understand what is the best interest of the company to do that. You have to be honest with yourself. Are you truly a salesman? Do you have a proven sales record? You say to yourself, I've never done sales, but I'll pick it up. How hard can it be? I'll just turn it on when I get in front of the customer. It doesn't work that way. Sales is not just sales pitching. Let's take a look at what sales is really like. It's not just, oh, hey, I got the greatest product in the world, and why don't you? When you look at sales, 48% of salespeople never follow up. Mind-boggling. 48% of people don't follow up. 25% stop at 2 contacts. 12% stop at 3. Only 10% of the salespeople go over 3 contacts. It's insane. No wonder there's so many failures in sales out there. It takes drive, right? You have to be driven. You have to go and go again. Let's talk about that as far as the contacts. And you also can't go there with the same message every time. You can't call the guy up, hey, I gave you a sales pitch 2 weeks ago. What do you think? You have to come with something different every single time. You want to be a welcome guest, not a sales guy. Oh, no, there's another sales guy, another sales guy. You want to be a welcome guest. You're bringing value to that buyer. You're bringing something different to them. Even if it's industry news, something that has nothing to do with your product, bring them something that they can sink their teeth into. If you do that, you become a welcome guest. Remember, think about this. 2% of sales happen on the first contact. 2%. 3% of sales on the second contact. 5% of sales on the third contact. 10% of sales on the fourth contact. Now think, if you're sending a salesperson and you hire that person, you got to send them 4 times for a 10% chance of success. Think about that. That's 4 trips if they're going out of town, 4 airplane rides, whatever it is. They're going 4 times, they only have a 10% chance of success. However, 80% of the sales are made between the 5th and 12th contact. Think about that. 80% of the sales are made between the 5th and 12th contact. I think you're going to be closer to the 7 to 12, 8 to 12, 9 to 12, because you're a new business and nobody's heard of you. You're not like you're a big company and you're going in there and you're trying to sell another product. They're going to even be more skeptical. So most of the time you're going to be maybe in the 9 to 12 range as opposed to the earlier one. So if 90% of the salespeople out there stop too early, you can't be discouraged. You can't be discouraged at 3 contacts. 80% of the sales occur between 5 and 12. If you think about it, if 80% of the people are not going through the 5 to 12 contacts, 80% chance of failure. Does that sound familiar? 8 out of 10 businesses don't make it. There's a theme here, persistent, perseverance, but you can't become a pain. You just can't become a pain. You got to bring something different to every sales call. Sometimes, if you're really, really savvy, you go to the first sales call, just get them intrigued. That's what you want. You want intrigue. Your second sales call, then you release something else to them. Third sales call, you release something else. So you're graduating every single time you go to the customer, and they're finding something new. So you become a welcome guest and not a pest. You go in there with the same pitch every time. Hey, I told you mine lasts longer, whatever it is. They've already heard that. They need something different. Let's assume your first few visits you get rejected. And we just told you if it takes 8 to 12 to make the sale, you're gonna need 7 rejections to get close to getting a success anyway. So rejection is nothing. It should be like water off a duck's back. You shouldn't even worry about it. Get used to it. It's part of the program. Every time you get a rejection, you're closer to the sale. That's how I look at it. I've been rejected 3 times from this guy, but he's still seeing me. He's still got a little bit of interest. I'm closer to the sale. You're getting closer to the sale every time you get rejected. If you take the rejection and you put your head between your legs and you walk out of the room, you're done. We always talk about sometimes you have to pull more strings than just the buyer, right? A lot of people make decisions in companies. You have a buyer, you might have an assistant buyer. If you're selling a product that they're going to resell, maybe you go after their salespeople and say, hey, listen, here's a product that you could sell if we can get so-and-so to buy it from us. You can go after accounting people if you're selling financial services, right? You don't necessarily have to have one buyer. We always talk about when you go into account, every contact you have is a string. If you have a lot of strings, you can turn it into a rope. It's a lot harder to cut a rope than a string. So don't just sit there and be asphyxiated on one buyer. If you're not getting success with that, we consider the buyer maybe Frankenstein. There's always an Igor. Go find Igor. Go find someone else in that company that will listen to you. There's many, many ways to get to you don't go straight to the president all the time. Try to go to somebody else. Go someone in accounting. Marketing people are always open to new products. They always want to market something new for their company. So make sure you don't sit there and say, I got this one buyer, he told me no, now I'm done. I'm going home. Wrong. You got to go find somebody else in that organization. You have to be creative to get meetings with people. Don't just send them an email, hey, I got a new product, blah, blah, blah. Send them maybe a pop-up mailer. Send them something crazy in the mail. Send them a sample of your product in the mail. We used to send out Columbus Day cards to people. Just like, what in the world is a Columbus Day card doing, right? Don't do what everybody else does because you need to get the appointment. You want to do something that will give you an appointment. That's your goal when you first start out, is just an appointment. Let's talk about success later. You got to get in that building. You got to talk to somebody. Talk to the freight guy. Talk to anyone you can talk to. Anybody who can get you the connection. So remember, don't just go after the one string. Create a rope. Rope's a lot harder to cut. Early on, we talked about hiring somebody. If you're not a salesperson, how are you going to find this person? How are you going to find this person that's willing to take a leap of faith if they're an established job? A successful salesperson. How do you bring them in? How do you attract them? You're going to have to give them a real value prop. You may have to give away more than you want to give away. You may have to give away some stock. You may have to give away expense accounts where you're kind of nervous about spending that money, but you're going to have to do something if you're going to have someone else sell your product. You have to develop your brand. You have to have a unique selling point. It's that simple. And that takes time to develop, right? It doesn't happen overnight. People have to learn to trust you, your brand, or your salesperson. If you hire a salesperson, trust is a big reason why people buy stuff. So when you're an entrepreneur, you're starting a new business, there's no trust. They don't know who you are or your company. They don't know if you're going to be here in 6 months or not in 6 months. So you have to build trust, and that takes time to do, and it's not cheap. Time costs money. Know your customer. Now, with the age of the internet, if you're walking into a buyer and you don't know where they went to school and how many kids they have and what kind of sports they're interested in and how long they've been at the company and where they worked at before, you're a loser. You shouldn't even be involved in sales. You should know everything about that buyer. Start out by breaking the ice a little bit with the buyer. Talk to them about, I understand you went to such and such university, or I understand you came from this industry or that industry. What made you change? Get engaged. Let people have a little bit of a personal relationship. Listen. Right? You got 2 ears and 1 mouth. You don't have to necessarily walk in there and start pitching your product. Start getting a relationship with the buyer or the decision maker. Start seeing what their needs are. I always used to ask people, why are you taking aspirin? What gives you a headache? That's how I've come out with most of my new products. What gives me a headache? Blah. Why? Have you ever thought of this and this and that? And if you're a well well-rounded person, you may be able to help them with something that's totally outside your category, and they get a success. You become a trusted resource then. If you're giving advice on other things, maybe you came from an industry that this person is similar with, you can help them in some other way. The cash register doesn't always have to ring every time you talk to a buyer. If you can help that person achieve success in their organization, they're going to look to you as a trusted source. You got to have something unique to sell, folks. You can't go in there with a Me Too product. And you got to know your product inside and out. If you're not a technical person, become a technical person. Know your product and know your competition almost better than you know your product, because you have to go in, because we talk around here, become bulletproof. What's it take to be bulletproof? Battle hardened and bulletproof. You have to be that way when you're selling. Because if the customer or the potential customer comes in and they say, hey, what about this, this, and that? And you go, well, ours lasts longer, or you give some sort of vague answer like that, you're dead. They understand you don't know the product. They're nervous about you to begin with because you're a new company. You're dead in the water. You're going to have to know every single thing. And the other piece of advice I would give is go after some small fish early so you can refine your skills. Don't go after the huge fish that you're dreaming of landing immediately until you can refine your skills, refine your product. So go after some small fish, and if you blow it in front of them, it's not going to kill you. You only get one chance at the big fish, one chance to make a first impression. So you have to sit there and really evaluate, how am I going to practice? Practice on your neighbors, practice on your friends, practice on potential small customers, and refine your skills. A lot of people like to go, jump off the deep end of the pool before they realize if they can swim or not. Hey, start in the shallow water, tiptoe in, get a little feel for the water. Is it too hot, too cold? How you doing? And when people react sourly to something you say, take that out, put something else in, and see if you can get people to react. Notice their body language, if they're making eye contact with you, if they're engaged. If they start working the mouse and looking on the screen, you've lost them, so you're too boring. So stop doing whatever you're doing. Don't give up after 5 to 12 contacts. Always find something different to bring to that potential buyer, or go to someone else in that organization. But don't smother these people. Don't become a pain. The last thing they want is just constant follow-up, constant follow-up. If you have nothing new to say, don't contact them. You have to go find customers. The phone does not ring on its own. Don't expect them to find you. Don't expect them to, oh, I heard about this. You have to go out and make the phone ring. You got to make the emails come in. And remember, if you make a sales call and you don't get an email back in 4 or 5 days, you're going to have to find a different way to communicate with that customer without saying, hey, did you make a decision or whatever. It doesn't work out that way. Find something different. Hey, did you hear this happen in the industry? And have you had a chance to look at my proposal? Appreciate hearing from you. Look forward to your response. Give them something that kind of pushes them to respond to you. When you got new company, new products, you want to try to find the early adopters. Those are the types of people that will take the risk. You can start using them as a reference. Once you get your first couple of sales, you got to try to find those people. They're difficult to find, but they're out there. You have to do your due diligence, do your homework, find those people. If you think about sales, what is sales? It's not the old way of just having a sales pitch, right? It's not the old selling used cars. It's not the old, hey, how do I put you in the driver's seat, all that kind of thing. That's not how sales works. Sales is very, very, very strategic. Most of the sales job is done before you get to the account. Most of the sales job is researching. What's the customer's hot buttons? Everyone has a hot button. Most people buy off emotion. That's the way it is. If they feel good about something, they think they're getting a good value, that's how they buy. So you have to figure out, what are your customers' hot buttons? What's going on in their life? What's going on in their world? What's going on in their company? What's going on with their boss? What's going on with their coworkers? You have to think of all this, and when you go in there, you have to have a story that's pleasing to someone. In other words, sit on the other side of the desk and say, all right, if I was sitting on this side of the desk, what would I want to hear? What would make me take a plunge with someone I've never heard from? Or at least get to the next level where they're considering you, or they're thinking about you, or they're saying, hey, this guy has some merit. Hey, this person has some an interesting comment. They have some insight. You have to constantly evaluate what you're doing to get there. Now, one thing that is very effective is people always want a price break. Your price is too high. Even if you're a product that has no competition at this point until someone else starts copying you or whatever, your price is too high, your price is too high. A very successful strategy that I've used is, hey, listen, I'll give you a window of a lower price, and then you decide if I'm worth it or not. So this window, what does it do? It's a call to action. It makes the customer say, oh geez, I got 120 days to buy this product cheaper, and I can try it and see if it's good or what have you. It's a very effective approach. Now the buyer gets a win. They get, say, 10% off or whatever it is. They get a little bit of win. They can report a win. Hey, let's try this, see what it is. And then after the trial period, your price goes back to your regular price. Generally, everyone forgets about it. It's either a success or it's not. But you need to find a way to get yourself in the door. You don't want want to take a price reduction for the rest of your life. You want to do something to entice the customer to action. Give them something, say for 120 days I'll hold your price at this level. Give them something that gives them a little sense of urgency, so they'll do something. So all right, let's give it a try. And you know what? If you buy X amount of these and it don't work, I'll take them back. Assuming you have a product that does that. Give them ways where their risk goes down. Now, we always say about RTR for us. How about RTR reduce the risk for your customer? Give them a chance of being secure in what you're doing. Hey, if the product breaks, I'll replace it for free. We've already tested it. It's not going to break. It's durable. Give them the sense of security where to say, you know what? I got an opportunity here. There's very little risk for me. I'm going to give it a shot. So think about that when you go into your sales calls. Don't just go in and pitch your product. Sometimes you don't even know what you're pitching against. Sometimes you're going in there and you're hitting all these, you're taking a machine gun approach. You don't even know what the target is. Find out from your customer, what's the target? What's their goals? What are they looking for? Do they have a certain area they're trying to expand? They're trying to reduce? Whatever it is, find out from your customer. Get a good feel for them and then tailor your sales pitch to their needs. And the more times you hit their needs, the more time they're going to be interested in giving you an opportunity. Remember, early on, you want an opportunity. Every opportunity has value in it. If you can get into a couple stores, they'll try it for a little while, or they'll give it a trial period. You know what? I'll try it for this, and that. Accept that. Say yes. Yes, we've gotten somewhere. Now all of a sudden XYZ is trying it. You go to your next customer and say, hey, this person's trying. Oh, they're trying it. Oh, that's interesting. You get credibility from references. You want to make sure you get out there and and if you have a good product, what do you want? You want people to use it. If you got something good, you just want them to use it. So it's an investment. If you give things away for free or you give a special price or whatever, it's an investment. And what are we looking for? Return on investment. That's the game. So don't be afraid to take a little chance early on and get people to try your product or do things that are a little unusual to get people to give it a shot. Make people say, you know what, you're making it hard for me to say no. If you do that, you're on the right path. And the trust is starting to build. And if your product is what you say it is, and it's going to do what it says it's going to do, once they get a taste of it, they're going to want it forever. So remember, most of the work on a sales call is before you even knock on the door. Thank you.